nous a expliqué quand même à l'entretien que 38 élèves, ça allait. 41, c'est beaucoup. Mais 38, ça va. 38, c'est pas mal. Pour le lycée, c'est bien.
It's a recurring theme when French teachers strike. To prove it, Nicolas Gillard and his colleagues created a protest movement dubbed the Red Pens. The group's 70,000 followers on social media networks oppose the education reforms laid out in the so-called Blanquer Law.
We're sick of fighting and not being heard. It's the first time we're faced with a government that's not listening.
But the teachers' anger transcends the planned reforms. They also decry increasingly difficult working conditions. This video is just one example. In it, a 15-year-old high schooler threatens his teacher with a fake gun. The video, shared massively on social media platforms, shocked educators across France and led to the education sector's Me Too movement. Using the hashtag Pas de vague or Don't Make Waves, tens of thousands of teachers shared their own experiences with classroom abuse. Their struggles became the heart of the Red Pen movement.
Donc toi tu parles des salaires, on est d'accord? Non, toi tu parles pas des salaires. Ensuite, parce que...
Nicolas meets with Lydia, a professor in Auvergne who's also a part of the Red Pen movement. They're preparing for a meeting with the Education Ministry.
If you're in front of 30 kids without supervision who aren't well behaved, you're all alone. And if anything happens, if you're insulted or bullied, people will say it's because you didn't have the proper training or because you didn't make your class interesting enough. It's no longer acceptable for us to hear that.
Things have gotten worse. The reforms, the sense of unease, recurring issues with the hierarchy, inspectors and headmasters. People have had enough. And on top of it all, salaries are low, so the situation was bound to explode, and it did.
The movement has been meeting and negotiating with Edouard Geffray, who oversees France's 880,000 teachers. The Education Ministry has promised to raise salaries next year and to adopt a new approach to human resources.
We're done sweeping things under the rug. Teachers must be protected, but it's a collective responsibility involving parents, children, and society. We have to protect teachers. That's what the ministry is prioritizing, defending and supporting them. Of course, given the size of the ministry, it'll take longer than just 8 days for the situation to change.
According to a federation of organizations tasked with protecting educators, violence against teachers, particularly threats and defamation, increased by 7% last year.
Here's the reason for suspension, seen by students making inappropriate sexual gestures.
It's a reality Luc Vandenhove discovered after 2 students made accusations against him. He continued teaching his accusers before being suspended 2 weeks later, the time it took to mount an investigation and for him to file a lawsuit for defamation. Vandenhove said he felt abandoned by his superiors.
I knew I would end up winning, because none of what the accusers said was coherent. But I was treated like a dog. In their eyes, I was guilty. In cases like mine, there should be structures with 1 or 2 psychologists and professionals who are accustomed to these situations and who can quickly distinguish fact from fiction. I think about what happened every day, and I still can't sleep.
After yet another tragedy, the ministry is now considering creating such structures. Last March, a primary school teacher in the Paris suburbs committed suicide after the mother of one of his students pressed charges for aggravated assault. The teacher, Jean Villot, had punished the student by making him sit down in a school staircase. His story, too, sent shockwaves across the nation's teaching workforce. One of his colleagues spoke anonymously to France 24 journalists for the first time.
The day he found out about the lawsuit, why did they let him go home? That shocks me. I no longer want to teach classes. I miss my students, but I feel at risk now, because any teacher can face a lawsuit at any given moment.
There are currently no official statistics on teacher suicides. And because access to occupational physicians is limited, teachers in distress often do not know who to turn to with classroom-related struggles. Article 1 of the Blanquer Law does not clarify the matter. It stipulates that teachers must have exemplary conduct, which many interpret as yet another means of putting pressure on them.
Teachers do not accept the idea that they cannot speak freely at all times on any subject. So, as a part of the management, we're constantly dealing with that paradox.
A new wave of strikes is already planned for the end of the academic year, with some teachers even threatening to boycott exams in hopes of finally being heard.